Adoption is often the unspoken option to an unexpected pregnancy. And in this case, ignorance is not bliss. Today, Christine and Joi reveal many of the facts surrounding adoption and dispel some of the myths. As a senior in high school, Christine learned she was pregnant. She decided to make an adoption plan for her baby, something less than 2% of women choose to do. Nearly 2 years after giving birth to a baby boy, Christine is talking with other teens about the option of adoption. Adoption really can impact a person's life. Tell me how it impacted yours.
It makes you a stronger person to have to go through everything that you have to go through, not only to choose adoption for a child, but especially as a high schooler, as a teenager. Less than 1% of all crisis pregnancies end with an adoption plan. As a high school student, it was very difficult to have to stand up to my classmates, my friends, administrators, teachers at my high school, and to actually have to stand up for what I believed in, to do what I knew was right, and to choose adoption. It really has radiated to every aspect of my life.
I'm curious to know what your teacher's reaction was. What did they say to you when they found out about your decision?
The one teacher that sticks out in my mind the most, and I don't think I'll ever forget this day, I can tell you exactly what I was wearing. I can tell you the Coke machine that I was standing next to in the gym lobby of my high school when one of my former teachers was walking through the hallway. The whole senior class was getting ready to go down to TPAC to watch a play. So we're all standing there waiting for the bus, and he walks through, and apparently he didn't know that I was pregnant because I hadn't seen him. He was a former teacher. And so my former teacher walks through the gym lobby, and he sees me and he says, "Christine, what's Christine?" And so I said, "Yeah, I'm pregnant." And I said, "But it's okay because I'm going to choose adoption, and I've chosen a wonderful couple that I'm going to choose to be the parent to this little boy." And he just kind of looked at me, and he looked kind of puzzled, and he said, "Christine, how could you give away your baby? No one will ever love him as much as you because you're his real mom." And I got on the bus to ride down to TPAC and bawled my eyes out the entire way.
Because of the words that were said, Christine doubted her adoption decision. Now she makes it a point to talk about the impact words can have on a pregnant teen.
If you look at the handout I gave a few moments ago, it says positive adoption language on the top. I do feel very, very strongly about this sheet of paper.
Probably one of the hardest things for me during my pregnancy was the comments. One of the things that we do in the high school presentations is positive adoption language, and why it's so hurtful to use words like keep the baby or put the baby up for adoption. And I really just couldn't understand how some of these people that I had known for years, some of my good friends, my classmates, really thought that I didn't love this baby. And they could look at me and ask me questions like, "Christine, why don't you want this baby? Why don't you love this baby? I don't understand." And I couldn't understand why they thought that. I loved this child enough to go through 9 months of pregnancy for him. I loved him enough to give birth to him, to bring him into this world. I loved him enough to choose 2 wonderful parents for him, and it just didn't make sense to me that these people didn't understand what a beautiful thing adoption was. And it was so hard to have to go through that, to have to hear the comments and to have to hear the words and to have to know that people that I respected and admired really thought that I was a bad person for choosing adoption.
I did not choose adoption because I didn't love Jacob, because I didn't want him. I chose adoption because I loved that little boy so much. And I made the hardest decision that I have ever had to make in my 20 years on this earth. And that is to put his needs before my own.
When Christine was a sophomore in high school, she sat in a presentation similar to this. She remembers Joi Wasill talking about the option of adoption and the negative impact words can play in a woman's decision. Today, Joi and Christine speak together. Joi, why did you decide to tell others about adoption?
After becoming an adoptive mother, I did not realize that most people don't have the correct image of adoption. For instance, when my son was 6 weeks old, I realized that people in my own family did not understand the correct image of adoption. When a relative of mine was holding my son, and he was an infant, and she looked at him and said, "I just don't understand how anybody could give away this precious baby." And that broke my heart that day. And I realized that we just don't understand the true nature of adoption, that adoption is not about giving babies away. It's about young women who make very difficult decisions in crisis pregnancies.
Well, it seems like in society today that women are taught or led to believe that it's better to abort your unborn child than it is to make an adoption plan.
I would agree with that. From the high school students that we've spoken to over the past 6.5 years, I would definitely say that when I ask the students, why do you think so few teenage girls choose adoption? Most of them will say, because they don't want to go through the 9 months of pregnancy. If you know someone who became pregnant during their teen years, raise your hand. That's pretty much the way it is wherever Christine and I go into high schools and talk about teen pregnancy. Because unfortunately, we have in the United States the highest teen pregnancy rate in the world. There are over 764,000 teenage girls a year in the United States that become pregnant.
Coming up, a few high school students give us their opinions about adoption.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
Joi and her husband were one of the 2 million couples waiting to adopt a child. In 1999, they were chosen by a birth mother to be Jacob's parents. Because of her close connection to adoption, Joi is passionate about sharing the positive impact birth mothers can have on society. What does the average high school student think about adoption?
The average high school student sees adoption as a very negative thing. How could you give away a baby? Why don't you love your baby? No one does that anymore. I don't know anyone who's done that. It's very difficult, and I don't think I can do that.
After listening to Joi and Christine's presentation, I asked some of the students what they thought about the options presented.
I thought that adoption was just a second option to parenting the child because I thought that would be better. But after seeing the statistics and hearing the facts, and it really changed my opinion that adoption is better.
I knew the basics of adoption, abortion, and parenting, but after this presentation, I learned the actual facts and everything behind it, just not the coding of it, but everything behind it, and it was very interesting to know everything about it now.
I always thought teen pregnancy was, wrong, well, not wrong, but hard, but after hearing about the woman's, the 20-year-old, about her experiences in high school, how her teachers were so hard on her about why are you giving it up for adoption, it really opened my eyes about how hard the process really is, and the decision.
Now, when you're speaking to the students, you take fetal models into the classroom and you have the students hold the models of the babies. Why do you do that?
Actually holding that little 12-week fetus and the 20-week and the 26 and the 30-week babies, actually holding them in your hands and realizing that this is exactly what it looks like in the womb, that's powerful. because for the first time, many of these students are realizing that this is not a blob of tissue. This is a baby. It has arms and legs and fingers and toes, and it actually has a heartbeat. It's amazing. Their reactions to those fetal models are incredible. So I am very passionate about those fetal models in the classroom, because for them to actually pass those babies around the room and hold them, that brings this message home, that this really is a human life. It really is a child. And I really do have a difficult decision to make.
Let's suppose that this weekend you get together with your friends, and one of those friends has been acting a little strange lately. She seems depressed, seems kind of down. And she finally calls you aside and says, I've taken 3 pregnancy tests. They're all 3 positive. I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. Now what? She's in this statistic now. She didn't choose abstinence. And so now she's in a very difficult place. She has to make a decision. What is she going to do? What are her options? Who would like to tell me what her options are? Yes, ma'am. Adoption is one. Abortion is one. And parenting the child.
Then there are 3 levels of adoption options to choose from.
The main 3 choices that you'll have is, first off, there's a confidential adoption, which is probably what most people think of when they hear the word adoption, where there's no contact between the birth mother and the adoptive parents. I actually do not know anyone who has chosen to have a confidential adoption recently. It's just not chosen very often anymore. If that's what a birth mother wants, if that's what she feels is best for her and the child that she's carrying, that's okay. She has every right to make that decision. The second kind is a semi-open adoption, which is what Joi has with her son's birth mother.
We have a wonderful relationship with Jacob's birth mother. She lives in Michigan, and I talked to her on the phone last Wednesday, as a matter of fact. We send letters and pictures and presents at birthdays and Christmas, and periodically throughout the year I send her pictures if we've been on vacation or we take a trip that we have some really neat photos that I want to send her. I'll drop a line to her and stick them in the mail, and she'll do the same for me.
And then the last kind is an open adoption, which is what I have with Jacob and his parents. We have a very open adoption. We talk on the phone, we email back and forth.
Who makes that decision as to what type of adoption will take place?
The birth mother makes all the decisions.
So
I'll
she's
go
in
ahead
control
and lay that out right now.
She's in control through the whole process.
Through the entire process, 100%.
She chooses the family. She actually looks through profiles, which are books that look a lot like a scrapbook that the adoptive parents put together. And she will look at those profiles and choose a couple, and she will be shown profiles that match what she's looking for. If a birth mother says, I want a Lutheran family that want to have an open adoption, she will only be shown profiles of Lutheran families that want open adoptions. So the birth mother is in total control of the adoption process. The adoptive parents are able to tell exactly what they're looking for. If they're looking for a confidential adoption, their profile will not be shown to birth mothers who want that level of openness that they're not comfortable with.
When we return, tell me about the word birth mother.
That's one of the most precious words to me, because without my son's birth mother, I'm not a mother.
Thank you for inviting us into your home. Each week we feature real people who deal with real-life issues head-on. Some of their experiences are uplifting, while others will break your heart. But in the end, the message is clear. Those who follow biblical principles on the issues of life are blessed. Become a partner with us in providing a positive, life-affirming message to help change the way the next generation values innocent human life. Please consider a generous gift to help offset the costs of producing this important quality programming. You can donate on our secure website at facinglife.tv or by calling the phone number on your screen during normal business hours. Together, we can make a real difference for life.
This week I'm visiting with two women who talk to teens about the options surrounding an unexpected pregnancy. There are about 750,000 teen pregnancies each year. Christine speaks from experience.
If you had told me 5.5 years ago that as a senior in high school I was going to get pregnant and then make an adoption plan for that child, I would have told you that you were out of your mind. Number one, that's not me. I'm not the one that gets pregnant. You've got me confused, the girl on the other side of the high school. And number two, I could never give away my baby.
I understand that adoption, abortion, parenting are all connected by language. Explain to me how that's so.
We have a positive adoption language sheet that we hand out in the classrooms. Two of the big things that we hit on the positive adoption language sheet is one, keep the baby, and two, give the baby up for adoption, or even worse than that, put the baby up for adoption.
So why are these words so terrible? I asked Joi to explain the connotation behind some commonly used phrases. Now let me toss out a few adoption terms, and then you tell me why you think they're negative terms to use in the language as we discuss this issue. Keep.
Keep implies your level of desire. Keep implies that you want something, and it implies worth on an object. You keep items that are worth something, and you throw away or give away things that are not worth anything. So it implies worth.
How about the term give up?
That one is very, very negative, and I look through the eyes of an adoptive mother, and I see my child, and I see the harm that that phrase would do to his soul. He was not given up. He was not given away, and he wasn't put up. His birth mother chose adoption for him because she wanted him to have the same kind of life that she had had, which was a mommy and a daddy in a stable Christian home. And to imply that she gave him up implies that he wasn't wanted. And that's very harmful to a child. It's very harmful to a birth mother to hear those words also.
How about real parent?
That's interesting. Most people use that phrase and don't realize what they're saying. We were at the local swimming pool, Jacob was probably 2 when this happened, and a friend of mine yells across the pool to me, "Do you ever hear from his real mom?" In the middle of a swimming pool full of people. Fortunately, my child was 2 and he was splashing and playing and didn't hear what they were saying. But do you understand how that would have made him feel had he heard her? And so the term real implies that you are somehow fake if you're not the birth parent. And it implies a relationship that isn't there, because a parent-child relationship is about the time and the investment of energy and love and emotion and being there. That's what makes a parent.
Unwed mother.
That term is derogatory toward birth mothers, and I have a very protective heart for birth mothers because they're very precious, they're very special, and that is a very outdated term, and it doesn't really, it puts on the birth mother a position that she shouldn't have. She's in a crisis pregnancy, yes, but the fact, there are many women who choose adoption who are married, so that implies something that simply isn't true in all cases.
Tell me about the word birth mother.
That's one of the most precious words to me, because without my son's birth mother, I'm not a mother. And a birth mother is a hero of the proportion that only God can really understand, because she is choosing to carry and nurture this child for 9 months, realizing that she's not going to be the parent of that child and that someone else is. And so that's a really high level of love and sacrificial motherly love that a birth mother has for their child. And that was one of the things that most disappointed me the early days of being an adoptive mother, was how negatively people viewed birth mothers. They viewed them as being uncaring, as they're all drug addicts. They can't take care of their children, so they just give them away. And that's absolutely not the correct image of a birth mother.
Next.
Society in general has a very outdated image of adoption.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
When Christine found out she was unexpectedly pregnant, she decided to be a birth mother. Joy and her husband adopted their son 9 years ago.